Right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Love Island Cast Australia. I am Chris Phelps, and my co-host and very good friend is Mr. Dave Horrocks.
Hey there, Chris. Great to speak to you again after our day off, and I can't wait to get our teeth into this one.
Yes, Dave. So, we might as well start at the end. We've had a triple voting off, Dave. So, we have seen Isabel go, and Cassie and Luke. So, where do you want to start with that one?
Well, I mean, let's start with Cassie and Luke, because, one of the things we love about doing this is, we're passionate about it, which is why we get all so riled up and everything. And there's lots of chatter on Twitter. The sense I'm getting is that, there is a feeling out there that this season needs a bit of something. It needs shaking up a bit. So I guess jettisoning 3 out of the villa, and let's see what happens tomorrow as well, might not be a bad thing. But with Luke and Cassie, I don't think it's a massive surprise to get to that voting off. I think some of the things along the way there go some way to explaining how they got there. But I mean, we had an email, didn't we? So
Yeah.
Do you want to start off and we'll go through that, and then we'll come back to Luke and Cassie, I'm sure.
No problem. Now, this email's from one of our listeners, Scarlett Clark. And I've got to say, Scarlett, fantastic that the amount of time that you've took just to send this email in. And it is a long one, but it's a long, me and you love this sort of thing, Dave, because everybody with these sort of shows, we shouldn't care, but we end up caring about these people we're probably never going to meet and probably see again. So I just love this. And I really thank you for myself and David sending this in. So it's mainly centered on Cassie and Luke. So here we go. Hey, it's Scarlett from Australia. I love your podcast. Honestly, makes me laugh so much. It's also interesting to understand the male perspective, because until I listened to it, Cassie was my favourite girl in there. Unfortunately, since listening to you guys, I can't uncringe at her, and I don't like her at all now. I'm sorry about that, Scarlett. However, just to play devil's advocate, I'm going to provide my perspective on Cassie. First of all, I haven't got past the fact that Luke picked first, and I feel like Cassie liked Josh more. I sort of agree with you that saying all the stuff about coming home at 6 was her just shit stirring. But I sort of understand when you're stuck with someone that you're not sure if you like sometimes, and you do stupid and impulsive stuff like saying that. Also, in regards to the recent fight between Luke and her involving his comment about her lifestyle, I saw it as Luke's fault more than Cassie, and here is why. So even though I don't think Cassie really likes Luke, I think she does have feelings for him. I think that the way he acted towards since they, and I quote, broke up, with all the stay away from my girl and cuddling and the shit he has sent her, very mixed signals. I think my feelings would be hurt if I heard the guy I was spending all my time with say that. And I think the issue with him saying it doesn't matter now. Well, it does, because last night she was your girl. I agree that comment is justified as part of Luke's decision to end things. But if I was in Cassie's position, I think it would be a bit of a head fuck. He can't act like they are together when it suits him and then say it's in the past when it doesn't. Hope you keep doing the podcast. It's awesome. And she then messaged again, Dave, which is brilliant. By the way, I agree, this season is getting so boring. And she's put again, I hate both Luke and Cassie, but they are basically the only reason I watch now. So, Scarlett, thank you so much. And unfortunately, thank you for listening to the podcast, because they have now left the villa. So you won't be listening to us again. Well, hopefully you are. But what a great email, Dave. And there's a lot there. So, I mean, what have you picked out of that email?
Yeah, no, firstly, again, I'd echo what you said there. I mean, absolutely brilliant. And we quite often say, don't we, we're two blokes. We can't help but see the world through a bloke's eyes. We can try and empathize and see it from a female perspective, but it is great to get, that perspective straight from the horse's mouth. What I would say is Luke and Cassie are two of the strangest people in a couple I think I've ever seen on this show, out of the various shows that we've seen, because since that kind of breakup, I mean, they never went through like a honeymoon phase. the honeymoon phase was probably before they actually got up, where they seemed to actually have a bit of a connection. And then it seemed to be quite turbulent right from the start. Even to the point when the bomb squad came along, Cassie said she was 90% sure Luke would come back with someone else. And it's just strange that both of them exhibit behaviors that they've still got hang-ups about the other person. They're split up, but they still have a lot of feelings both ways. And Luke in particular is some of his behavior is very odd. The way he's saying, like, get your hands off my woman. And, we saw a few times when they were in bed, he'd have his arm around her. It's all just very, very strange. And the strangest bit, he seemed to be in pole position with the new girl, Margarita. And then he basically took himself out of the game. He basically said, look, you're my perfect sort of girl. Outside the villa, it'd be fantastic. But inside here, I don't think you're going to get what you want from me because I'm kind of emotionally spent. And I guess it does, if that's all genuine, it does say, how exhausting it must be. It sounds ridiculous. It's not like they're doing 12-hour days, 6 days, 7 days a week, is it? They're sat in a luxury villa. But I can imagine emotionally it must be really quite draining. So, yeah, and honestly, I can't have anything positive to say about Cassie. I do appreciate the female perspective, but I've said loads of times on previous episodes, some of her behaviour I find very distasteful, and that's continued all the way through. So, I mean, what do you think, Chris?
I think, again, great email. I don't like Cassie, and I did say to you, Luke, I think I was going off him a couple of episodes ago because I don't think he's doing himself any favours either, Dave. I just think it's a toxic relationship. As you said, you're so right. They can't live with each other, but they don't want to live without, and it's very, very bizarre. And like you say, he had Margarita there, and she looked like she was all in on him, and I was so shocked that she picked Blake. So I don't know what Luke has done or what we've not seen off camera. I know there was a couple of conversations, but when I saw her with Blake, there wasn't anything there. I'm not saying there was with Luke, but they seem to be a bit more sort of mutual sort of affection to each other. As such, saying there's something with Blake, I didn't get it at all. So that was a very strange pick. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think the best thing I can say is, Dave, don't let the fucking door bangers on the head on the way out, because I'm sick to death of seeing that fake romance as long as I shall live. And talking about fake, Dave, let's talk about Matt. So Matt is with Isabel. I'm sorry, I'm going all in on this fucker. Matt's with Isabel, and he sees Marguerite, which the day before he was saying that Cartier was his type. No, Marguerite's definitely my type. Well, she pies him off because he's too emotional. Fair enough. And he then justifies himself by saying, I'm getting emotional about her calling me emotional. And it's like, well, hello, McFly. I think she might have a fucking plan.
I was genuinely crying at that bit. Just laughing my head off because the irony of it. The fact that, she's calling me emotional.
And then he's going, and I'm getting emotional. And I'm like, well, that's the fucking point, mate. You know what I mean? Come on. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you can't express your emotions, but fucking hell, I'm sick to death of seeing him fucking cry. So anyway, we talk. So he puts a bit of a play on Cartier, and it's totally false. We pulled him up, haven't we, when he sort of sat on a knee when Adam had binned her off. And obviously Adam and her are no more. And I know we're going to talk about Adam in a sec. But what I want to talk about is the voting off that we've just seen in this episode, right? He's the most insincere cockhead I have ever seen. He's giving the puppy dog eyes to everybody. He knew, honestly, Dave, I'm sorry, but he knew, it's like he knew this was coming, like he's got the nod off the producers, because all of a sudden, he puts a play on Cartier when there's been absolutely fuck all going on. He sniffs at her and Adam are not going to be together. He thinks, hang on, I need to be with someone. She's that fucking gullible, Cartier. She's a lovely girl. She's going to fall for it. She's never had a proper relationship. She's been messed about by the people she has been with. And she needs, she might want to stay in the villa. I'm not saying she might be completely innocent, but she's portraying that in the actual show. And then we get this voting thing, and it was so fucking false by him. I wanted to be sick, Dave, and I knew Isabel was going to go because they bought into this Cartier fake fucking showmance, and I was like, oh, mate, you are a dick. And unfortunately, Dave, I think this guy is going to be in it till the end because I am sick to death of him now.
It is surprising. I mean, he's had enough chances, hasn't he? And it is a bit odd. I mean, I don't mind that he's not gone because watching him ball is quite funny. But yeah, I mean, I'm not buying anything between him and Cartier
No.
at all. There just seems to be nothing there. And in real life, where you're not forced to couple up, although some might say society forces you to, um, they just would remain friends for a lot longer. They do seem like they have a kind of friendship there, but absolutely zero spark. It feels to me like they're kind of trying to force that. So yeah, I thought it was, I talked about Luke effectively cock blocking himself. I mean, Isabel seemed to pretty much do that with Blake, didn't she?
Yeah.
She started off the conversation saying, I'm not really kind of uh, I'm not really looking over, don't feel like I'm the really jealous type and you've got to worry about what I'm thinking if you feel like there's a connection there. And it ended the conversation with them both deciding actually after that initial spark, there is nothing. So, bad timing there, wasn't it? So I guess it could have gone the Matt way, but I guess because Matt's been there since day one, he's got a lot of friendships, and that's the way people voted in the end.
Yeah, and just touching on something I mentioned earlier, Dave, I totally agree on that. It was very bizarre. And she did say, like, I'm glad you voted for me. It's tears of, like, happiness. I think she realised. I'm not saying it wasn't the correct vote, but it was just Matt playing up and he's fake, hugging her and kissing her on the head. I was like, oh, mate, he's so fucking false. But let's talk about Adam, Dave. Now, Margarita came in, or Marguerite, her name, she came in the 2 episodes ago. We had Luke and Adam on the beach. She comes up, Dave. Now, let's not be about the bush. She's a stunning looking girl. She comes in, and Adam has obviously pied off Cartier. He's given her the once over, say, yeah, it's done, we're just mates, blah, 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 all that stuff, which I think is completely nonsense. We'd called him out. He then has the opportunity to pair up with Margarita. And I'm not saying he should or he shouldn't. Everyone has their own type. But there's a certain way you would put a lady down, isn't there, Dave, or a male down if it's a female, by just saying, look, I don't think it's for me. I'm just feeling it, like we're more friends, or the old classic line, which feels like brother and sister, like a soap opera job. So you could say all that. No, he doesn't say that. He just says, I like to go for someone who's a bit more natural. And I was fucking crying, me. Like, wow. And she's dying to be like upset and annoyed. And she's smiling. And I felt so sorry for her. I was like, you absolute arse. And I don't know what's happened to him, but he's like he's had a fucking lobotomy because this is not the same guy we've been watching for 4 or 5 weeks at all.
It was very, very strange. And we laugh because it is just a pure David Brent moment. What a terrible thing to say. And put yourself in her position. That can't have felt very nice to be told that. Now, I've seen lots of chatter around, and I think a lot of people are immediately focusing on the boobs. Just as a general point, not anything to do with that conversation. No, so no, it's saying I like natural girls, so because you got fake boobs. But look, we all know what he means. It's not just about the boobs. Like from head to toe, she's she's had work done. Teeth remind me of. Do you remember Friends when Ross?
Yeah, Ross. Yeah.
The teeth whitener for too long and he glows in the dark. It kind of reminds me of that. But she had her teeth done. She had her lips done. Her hair is perfect. So I can see what he means. And so if you look at Cartier, she's a very, natural looking young woman, isn't she? So
yeah.
I get where he's coming from, but you fucking idiot. There's better ways of putting it than that. And what I found odd about yesterday's episode was flavor seemed to be the word of the day. It seemed to be like Sesame Street, right? Flavor is the word of the day. And everyone was talking about, whether this person or that person was their flavor. And, Adam just said to her, he says, you're not my flavor. It's like, you're a fucking dick. You are he's borderline psychopath because the way he's kind of shut off his emotions there is something going on that's more below the surface. I just think it's very, very strange the way he's changed. One theory could be, he was playing a game in there, and actually he's just a bit bored, and he just can't be arsed with playing the game anymore. And he's like, I'm done with my time here, and I'm not really arsed. I don't have the energy to play the game anymore. It did cross my mind whether he's suffering a bit of depression or something.
Yes, I have to. Yes, I've got both flips of the coin there, Dave. I look at him and I think is that what's going on? But I'm going to be cynical now, Dave. We mentioned, and we were obviously tagged in by Raven T, one of our good listeners again, and this video we mentioned about, we saw Vanessa and Adam sat around a table with obviously agents and stuff, and I've said they're all prep, they're all thingy, they've got different things behind. They're all fucking wannabes, aren't they? They're all after that fame hungry attention and stuff that it brings. And to me, Dave, I think the first thing you said is absolutely correct. My opinion is he's been playing a game, because he did change. He come in, he was a bit of a dick and that messing around. He wasn't being horrible, but he was just a bit of a knob. And then all of a sudden, he just became completely smitten with Cartier, because obviously Owen had binned her off. She didn't know what was going on. And to me, I agree with you. I just think the mask has slipped and he's thought, fuck this, I can't do this anymore. And he's just strung her along, and he's just been, he probably himself, I think, he's just gone from absolute hero to zero in my eyes. He looks like he just looks like a typical lad. The reason why a lot of girls have got trust issues with lads, because he's just acting so fucking flaky. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because I was thinking, crikey, he's this season's Michael from the UK season, where he seemed to be such a stand-up bloke and then just came across like a total tool. It was like someone flicked a switch and then he was a total arsehole, going from hero to zero, as you say. It struck me that that's kind of what Adam's gone through. But yeah, I mean, I hope you're right. I hope it's just the mask slipping. But the fact that, he's just not really getting much enjoyment. It seems to be when he's in a group, he's laughing and stuff. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, no, you're right, Dave. You're right. Let's just see. I could be completely wrong. And if it is depression, then he needs to get the help that he should quite rightly get. And I'm quite happy to hold my hands up. But the cynical side of me is still there. But Dave, I'm gonna have another go at Adam. Actually, we saw through the summer with the UK show, not in the US one, but the UK show, there was an epidemic. And do not tell me, Mr. Horrocks, that somebody on the production staff hasn't said to those lads, I tell you what was a real success in the UK and became a real big hashtag on Twitter is the silly salmon. And we saw Adam just randomly do it today. And I was like, fuck off. It's absolutely convoluted bullshit, that. And I sound like the absolute cynic now. I was watching it like, oh, no. And obviously, any of our Aussie listeners, I apologise, but through the whole of the UK one, literally every episode, one of the lads did that silly salmon in the pool, didn't he, Dave? There's some quite funny bits with it. And I'm not saying the UK has exclusivity on it. I can't, because after seeing it a couple of times, I was bored senseless watching it. But this now, I'm thinking, don't bring this in. Don't bring this into the Aussie one.
I don't know if it was, the producers saying, oh, look, this would be really funny. At the end of the day, that apart from these little challenges and stuff and chatting with people, and you're there for 24 hours a day, you must be bored out your fucking mind, So I saw it and I just thought, well, clearly they were watching the UK season, which, to be honest, if you were going on a game show, well, actually, this is probably more me speaking. I would prepare. I would watch the previous seasons.
Fuck off.
You would probably just rock up and say, what the fuck's all this about then?
Dave,
what? I have to couple up with someone. Fucking hell, I didn't. Best tell Sam.
Dave, yeah. I'm the type of guy who would audition for Love Island, not realising that you actually have to get in bed with someone when I'm happily married or something. Yeah, that's Dave, tell everybody what you say about me. Now, obviously, we have to be yin and yang to do this sort of stuff, but your analogy of our personalities is brilliant.
Oh, well, yeah. So this is something we said a while ago, isn't it? Because we have various podcasts together and we do work very well, even though we're really quite different. And I'm quite prepared. Meticulously go through, we're doing research and what have you. And then when we're setting up new projects, need to think through, right, who's going to listen to this? What are we actually going to do? And so I likened it to, us both getting ready to do a parachute jump and me doing all my pre-jump checks and checking everything's up there and you jumping out the plane without parachutes.
I can't even argue with it because I know that's right. I am head first, 100% committed to whatever idea that I think I can go with. You know that's what I'm like, Dave. And I love that because you're so right. I would join Love Island and not have a fucking clue what's going on. I'd be like, if I didn't know the show, yeah, that's exactly me, Dave.
So I just think, they let's say even if they're halfway in the middle, they're going to have watched some of it. And I think it was Chris, wasn't it, who first started doing it. It was only when he came in, he started to do it, and then it became a bit of a competition with all the lads.
Yeah.
So they'll have seen that, and then sort of just wonder if it's that difficult.
No, exactly. And also, I just wanted to throw a quick question out to our listeners, Dave. Obviously, we mentioned that the great email we had before. If you do want to email us, and I do want some response either on Twitter or an email on this, guys, at Love Island Cast on Twitter or the loveislandcast@gmail.com. When does it actually finish, the Australian one? Because I've been looking on Google when the final is. Now, the way it's set up for tomorrow's episode looks like they're starting to cull all the actual islanders. So I'm wondering whether this is a 6-week run, Dave, not an 8, because we're going into our 6th week next week. And obviously the UK one runs for 8 or 2 months. The US one was 4 weeks because it was the first ever series, even though that's been commissioned for a second. And this Australian one, I could be wrong, is looking like it could be a 6-week run. So in my head, I'm thinking that it's going to finish a week on Monday. So can anybody get in contact with us? I'm not being lazy. I just cannot find it online. Every time I put it in, it's just nothing comes up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see myself. Yeah, so like everything that I can see is for the previous weeks.
Yeah, it's not very clear on there. And obviously it's designed for the Australian, listeners and fans and stuff. But obviously us Brits, we just lap everything up, don't we? And I can't find anything. And it's not like me and you are not computer savvy, because we are, but it just doesn't come up. So unless I've missed something. But honestly, any feedback would be welcome, guys.
Now, I did see, Vivian on Twitter posted that Luke and Josh, Luke and Josh. Actually, that was emotional, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
had
it was.
a little tear in my eye when they were saying bye to each other. But Josh and Anna are Vivian's favourites, and I do think I can't at the minute see past that. I'm not really bought into Jesse and Todd. So I don't really see them being strong. I think Cynthia and Aaron, I'm not really bought into them. And I was just utterly perplexed by one of their conversations. Aaron's trying to make himself out all intellectual and stuff and saying, yeah, evolution, you start off as a tadpole and then that's evolution. And then Cynthia goes like, yeah, but how would you explain ghosts? What the fuck are they talking about? So if they're okay having those random discussions, I don't see the spark that they talk about. And the fact that Aaron's been on previous dating shows and stuff does make the cynical part of me come out a bit more. But,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think in terms of who do we think can win from this point?
I think probably Luke and Anna, as long as Anna doesn't get a big spoon out again.
It's usually me getting the twins wrong.
Oh, it's Josh. It's the first time this series. I'm sorry. I'm just so upset about Luke leaving, Dave. She's absolute nonsense. But anyway, sorry, Josh and Anna, as long as she doesn't get that big fucking spoon out again, stirring the shit, I think they're probably in pole position because no one else I'm buying. I agree. Cynthia and Aaron, don't see it. Obviously, we've got fucking Matt. Matt's going to make a Hail Mary go of it, isn't he? He's going to try everything he can now with Cartier to get to that final. They're not going to win it at all.
Can I just actually, I want to read out one of the tweets that we got from Coach Green at LAX. And it says, "Hey, love the podcast and the analysis. You guys are typically spot on in all your judgment, with one exception. You both seem to forget that if any of them was great at relationships or great people, they wouldn't be on this show." Now, I don't think I've said it for a while. It was probably back in the UK season when we first started. And I did say that they were all a bunch of narcissistic arseholes. and although the show has sucked me in, I haven't really changed my opinion about that. And I do think, someone like Matt in particular strikes me as he's not in touch with his emotional side. The crying, that's not the same thing, being in touch with your emotions. He strikes me as just incredibly emotionally fragile, and the way he builds these quick bonds with people, and then he's crushed by it. It just, I think they are all, they're not mentally healthy, people, all of them. I don't think. I mean, that might be a bit controversial. Some of them come across, better than others. But I mean, what do you reckon to that, Chris?
I think he's probably right. I'm cynical. I love the show, but I don't believe any of these are going to be together. I know in the UK one, we've still got a son going, like Tommy and Molly May, who are the most cynically sort of sought after couple that everyone thought they were blagging it, and her especially. And obviously we were wrong. We thought Lucy was going to get with Tommy in the end, but that was obviously nothing came of that. I think it's probably right, to be honest, Dave, but I still watch it. I don't think there's anything wrong in that. It's just what the show's made for, really. We all buy into this bullshit, and it is bullshit at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, it's not even fast food. It's like, I don't know, candy floss or something. It's something that, you get some cheap enjoyment out of, but know none of it's any good for you.
Yeah, it's true. Very good, that, Dave. Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah. You get stuck between your fucking teeth, and you got all that horrible sugars. Yeah, that's definitely Love Island, Dave. But anyway,
after that sugar rush, the episode comes on tomorrow, and you just can't wait to have that kick again.
Yeah, it's a very good description, actually, Dave. But no, thanks again, Coach Green, for sending in another great tweet, and keep them coming, guys, please, because we love it. Now, as I mentioned before, at Love Island Cast on Twitter, the loveislandcast@gmail.com to give us an email. And if you do like the show, please get the reviews out there on your podcast catching app. It just helps me and Dave grow and gets us out there to more people. So, Dave, I want to thank you again today. A little bit of a double whammy, a little bit longer than usual. What a great episode. And I will see you tomorrow, my friend.
Yeah, see you again tomorrow. Bye now.